In this video, we're gonna go over 5 tips that you can keep in mind in order to have a healthy, happy, successful relationship when you have borderline personality disorder. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into tip number 1. And this revolves around communication and specific things that you need to communicate when you have BPD. So the first thing that I recommend that you communicate is read up on BPD as much as possible. Read as much as you can about the disorder and educate your partner as well about the disorder. Make sure you both go through the symptoms of the disorder, understand problems that come up with the disorder, and make sure both of you understand it really well. What this can help with is it can make you, if you have BPD, a lot more aware of, kind of what's going on in your head, make yourself aware of more of the symptoms and stuff like that. And this can help you with not engaging in as many toxic, problematic behaviors. And when your partner is also very aware about BPD, what this can do is this can help them be more empathetic and help sympathize with you a lot better and help you when it comes to your difficult moments and triggers, mood swings, anger outbursts, stuff like that. They can be a lot more understanding and empathetic and help you navigate these things a lot more smoothly. The next thing to do is to work on communicating your needs and difficult things to your partner effectively. Now, what you can do is you can use dialectical behavioral therapy skills like DEARMAN, FAST, and GIVE. And in the description, I'm going to link an article that goes through these skills in more depth, but I'm going to give you kind of the gist of these skills here. When you're communicating things to your partner, make sure that you're not using blaming language, So try not to generalize and call the other person things. For example, if you're upset at something that your partner did, instead of saying, "You're a jerk for doing that," or "You're so lazy, I can't believe you didn't clean up the dishes when I asked you to," what you can do is here's a kind of simple formula you can use. Focus on the action that the person did that upset you or that caused an emotion in you, and then talk about the emotion that it caused. So you can say, "I felt really angry when I saw that you didn't do the dishes. I wanted to know why you didn't do them, because that might help me lower my anger a little bit." You have an action that doesn't blame the other person, it just objectively points out what happened, You didn't do the dishes. Not, "You were lazy and you didn't do something," it's, "You didn't do the dishes," right? And then the emotion that you felt. "I felt upset when I saw that you didn't do the dishes. Why did you feel that way?" "Because I wanted you to do the dishes, and when you didn't do them, it upset me because you didn't stick to what you said you were going to do." And then finally, kind of maybe suggest something that you can do in order to improve things, right? So you can say, "Maybe next time you could let me know if you aren't going to get the dishes so that I can get them ahead of time." Or you can ask, "What happened that made you not want to do the dishes? That might help me lower a bit of my anger and help me be more understanding." If you use this kind of objective, concrete thing where you're focusing on the facts, focusing on the feelings that you feel, and then focusing on the outcome that you want, this can really help with communication. Another big thing to do is when your partner wants to communicate with you, right? Let them know, like, "Hey, tell me ahead of time before you want to have a difficult conversation." What this can do is, for people with BPD, having difficult conversations, hearing criticisms from their partner can be extremely hard, right? So make sure your partner knows how to communicate effectively in the same way that, I just kind of went over when it comes to using non-blaming language, focusing on actions, staying objective, focusing on emotions and outcomes, stuff like that. But also make sure that they tell you ahead of time before you have a difficult conversation. This can really help with preparing you when you have BPD to have these difficult conversations, right? Because the thing is, for people with BPD, these conversations are overwhelming, really difficult. So if you know ahead of time that, hey, in 5 hours, we're going to have a difficult conversation, or tomorrow evening, we're going to have a difficult conversation, what you can do is you can kind of prepare yourself beforehand, right? You can engage in some self-care. You can kind of try and calm yourself down by doing some calming activities, stuff like that, so that you can manage your mood swings, anger outbursts, stuff like that during the difficult confrontation. So again, tell your partner, "Hey, just let me know when you want to have a difficult conversation, but let me know a little bit ahead of time so I can prepare myself and emotionally calm down so that I don't, get really angry at you or split or something like that." And the last kind of thing when it comes to communication, because this is a really big topic, what you want to focus on is communicate which BPD symptoms and things that you struggle with the most. So first, kind of figure out, in your previous relationships, what do you tend to do? For example, for me, I tend to sacrifice my own needs and aggressively people please and kind of lose my sense of self. I'll spend way too much time with the person that I'm kind of in love with and stuff like that. And this will lead me to lose my sense of self and then eventually break things off. So I communicate this with my partners now. I'm like, "Hey, I have a tendency to get over involved. I have a tendency to kind of sacrifice my own needs. So please help me with maintaining boundaries, Make sure that we have days every week where we don't see each other and stuff like that." And these simple things, being aware of what it is that you tend to engage in when you're in a relationship that's kind of problematic for you, communicating that to your partner and then having them be understanding can be super helpful. Now, tip number 2, you want to avoid splitting and love bombing. So what are these two things, right? They kind of go hand in hand, right? Splitting is when you kind of, will change your opinion drastically on someone. You'll go from thinking they're the best person in the world, putting them on a pedestal, to thinking they're the worst person in the world and you absolutely hate them, right? And love bombing is typically what happens when you're in that kind of good phase of splitting, right? When you think someone is the best, you put them on a pedestal and stuff like that. You'll shower them with affection, with gifts. You'll tell them you love them, have great sex, all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden they'll do one small thing that breaks the perfect image in your head, and then you'll think they're horrible and you become cold, aloof, distant, and disheartened. To avoid doing this, this, what you can do is stay as objective as possible, right? Make sure that you're really objectively thinking about the person. If you start thinking that someone is perfect, that they're amazing, that you're in love with them, that they're the best person, but you've only known them a week, try and remember that. Some things to keep in mind when you're starting to love bomb or think someone is the best person ever, keep in mind how long have you known the person. And you can actually really use time to help you kind of not love bomb and stuff like that. What you can do is you can have rules for yourself, like no saying I love you before 6 months, no saying forever before 2 years, stuff like that, right? And when you kind of try and every day keep in mind how long have I known this person? How much do I really know about this person? Stuff like that. This can really help you stay objective and not idealize them as much. And also when you don't idealize them, you'll end up not splitting on them as well, because splitting typically happens when you think someone is perfect, you only see the good in them, and then when they do something that breaks that image in your mind, that's when you'll split, right? So when you don't put them up on the pedestal in the first place, this can really help with not splitting, right? And the same thing when you devalue someone, you start thinking they're the worst person in the world, stuff like that. Try and remember good things that they've done. Try and remember positive things that they do, right? This can really help with not idealizing them and overvaluing them and stuff like that. Stay as objective as you can. Keep in mind the amount of time you've known the person, and also try and remember objective things about the person that you like or dislike, depending on if you're in the idealization stage or the devaluation stage. If you're idealizing the person, think about things that they do that make them not perfect. Think about difficulties in the relationship that make them, maybe not possibly the one for you or the perfect partner. And then also when you're in the devaluing stage, if you think they're the worst person in the world, try and remember things you do like about them, Try and keep both in your mind at the same time. A good way to kind of do this is using dialectics, which is the idea of holding two things in your head at once. And you can do this using the word and. You can say, I think this person is a perfect fit for me and they're amazing. And I can also see that there are some realistic flaws that might cause us to not have a good long-term relationship. So now let's move into tip number 3. How do you manage the fear of abandonment? This is a big one for people with BPD, right? And the biggest thing you can do is ask yourself, what would I do if I knew I was going to be doomed to be single for the rest of my life? If I knew I would never have a relationship, no one would like me, what would I do? I'm going to give credit to Heidi Priebe here. I'm going to link one of her videos down below. She does a great job explaining this. But when you kind of have this lens and you think about things you would want to do if you were single, this can help you not have as much of a fear of abandonment, right? Because when you ask yourself, what would I do if I had to be single for the rest of your life? What you're doing is you're forcing your brain to kind of think of things that are more important to you than a relationship, right? And that's the key to not having a fear of abandonment, is having things in your life, hobbies, career goals, stuff like that, that are more important than a relationship to you. Because the thing is, once you have stuff that's more important than a relationship, all of a sudden it's not as scary to lose that relationship, right? Because you have things that are important to you outside of your relationship. The reason that fear of abandonment is so prominent for people with BPD is oftentimes they'll overinvest in the relationship and it'll become the most important thing to them. When you have other stuff outside of that that's important, this can really help you not fall into that trap. In the next couple of tips too, we'll give some other stuff that you can do kind of on a day-to-day basis in order to lower your fear of abandonment. But that's one big thing that you can kind of do. Tip number 4 is to use a sounding board. Have a group of trusted people, maybe 1 or 2 close friends or family members or a therapist that you can objectively talk to about your relationship. Try to have people who are not related to the person who you are in a relationship with, like try not to have mutual friends or anything like that. Talk to people who are completely outside of the relationship, who can have an objective, unbiased view on the relationship, and use them as a sounding board. Because the thing is, with our fear of abandonment, with our intense attachments, people with BPD can get stuck in really unhealthy dynamics. So having objective third-party people to talk to about your relationship can really help you not get stuck in toxic cycles, right? Have people around you who are aware of your disorder, aware of its symptoms if you can, and this will really help you have objective people around you who help you stay on track when it comes to relationships. Again, try and tell these people things that you would typically do in a relationship that are toxic and problematic, and be like, hey, gently point this out to me if you see me start to do this, if you see me start to spend all my time with this person, if you see me start to say that they're the one and stuff like that when I barely know them, please point it out to me, and do it gently, because I might be sensitive, kind of when I'm in a relationship around that topic. This can really help. Having objective third-party people who care about you and who are aware of your disorder can really help you lower the risk of it, because you'll have someone kind of, keeping you in check and keeping you grounded. And now tip number 5, the final thing that you can focus on is spending time alone every week. Spending time apart from your partner and spending time alone can, again, really lower your fear of abandonment dramatically. It can help you keep your sense of self, and it can also help you stay objective with the relationship. This part is really crucial for all the other tips, right? It makes it easier to communicate, because when you're spending time away from your partner, you get a better understanding of what your needs are, what you want from the relationship, stuff like that. It also also helps you not have as much of a fear of abandonment because you're able to spend time alone, doing stuff without your partner, so you have a life outside of them. And again, this will make you less likely to be afraid of them leaving, because when you have stuff outside of them, you can kind of be rest assured that even if they leave, you still have stuff that makes you happy, brings you joy, stuff like that. And this will also help you get clear in your own head about, what do you want out of life? This will help you not get your sense of identity enmeshed with your partners, right? Because when we're BPD, we have a tendency to really become our partners, and spending time away or alone can really help. And again, try and have objective, measures to measure how long you spend with your partner. Try and have stuff like, okay, I'm going to spend, 3 nights alone per week, or I'm going to spend 3 nights with friends rather than my partner, stuff like that. Have these objective measures and metrics, or spend, certain time, away from your phone and stuff like that, or not talking to your partner. This can really help with maintaining a solid sense of self, maintaining boundaries, and having a healthy sense of self when you have BPD. All of these things are things that people with BPD struggle with a lot, and the way you can avoid a lot of them is spending healthy time alone. Now let's do a quick recap of the whole video. So tip number 1 was all about communication. Make sure you read up on BPD, educate yourself about it, and educate your partner so that they can have more sympathy, and you can also prepare for all the symptoms and stuff like that and be more aware of them. Also, in communicating, make sure you stay objective and stay patient. Use skills like DEARMAN, fast, and give. Focus on the action that caused you, objective action, objective facts, and the objective action that caused you to have a certain emotion, and then also focus on what the person can do to remedy the emotion that you're feeling. Make sure you also tell your partner to tell you ahead of time when they're going to have difficult conversations with you, so you can emotionally calm down and relax going into the conversation with a better frame of mind. Also, make sure that you communicate the things that you struggle with the most specifically, that are specific to you when it comes to your BPD, so that your partner can better account for them and help you, manage your illness best. Number 2, avoid love bombing and splitting by staying objective. Keep in mind the amount of time you've known someone, how much time you spent with them, stuff like that. And keep in mind that things like love and stuff like that, knowing that someone is the one, don't happen for a very long amount of time. Make sure you track the time you've known someone so that you can know if you're being delusional or if you're actually, maybe finding something objectively right with this person. Number 3, manage your fear of abandonment by having things that are more important to you than your relationship. You can do this by asking yourself, what would I do if I was doomed to be single for the rest of my life? And then focus on those things. Number 4, have trusted friends and family members, or maybe a therapist who's aware of your disorder, who can be a sounding board for you. Have people who are aware of your tendencies and stuff like that, and talk to them about your relationship so they can help you avoid familiar patterns. And tip number 5, spend time apart from your partner each week. Spending time alone can really help you focus on yourself, not enmesh yourself, and have, again, more confidence, more insight into your needs, stuff like that. Spending time alone, super helpful. I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching. Take care.